It's headlines like this that make the Pujoshis around the world seethe. So I got this article from Bounding Into Comics pulled up, and the headline says Netflix's live-action One Piece showrunner reveals Eiichiro Oda was adamantly against any romances between the Straw Hats. That's a hard no. It's so weird that people look at these relationships between these characters and think like, is it romantic? It's like, no, you can have friends and other things and not be romantic. But yeah, jumping into the article. And directly responding to obsessive hopes of series shippers far and wide, Netflix's live-action One Piece co-showrunner has revealed that one of the series creator Eiichiro Oda's core demands for the adaptation was that there be absolutely no romance between the members of the Straw Hat crew. Medea, that's one of the showrunners of this, provided this new insight into the mangaka's understandably rigorous standards while speaking to TV Line's Andy Swift about the recent buzz from certain audiences around the chemistry seen between actors Emily Rudd and McKenyu, and they play both Nami and Zoro respectively within the show. Pressed by the outlet on whether or not the ease in which the actors got along on screen was hinting towards an eventual romance between the two heroes, the showrunner adamantly declared that any such readings of the relationship as both friends and crew members was not intended. That's something that some people just don't understand. I mean, you can have relationships between characters without it being a romance one. I mean, we even saw this, I remember in the past with Bucky and Steve from the Avengers movies. They're like, oh, are they gay or something like that? It's like, no, they're just childhood friends. I mean, they have like that brotherly dynamic to them. It's a really close friendship, but I mean, it doesn't have to be romantic. And I don't understand why people think it has to be romantic. I'm actually kind of surprised, honestly, that people are talking about Zoro and Nami in this one, because a lot of the Fujoshis I've seen or whatever talking about One Piece always try to ship Zoro and Sanji together because of the, I don't know, the dynamic they have between each other, even though it's just like, yeah, they're constantly like snipping at each other and stuff like that, but it's just a rivalry between them. I mean, that's just the point of it. I mean, and that's what's funny with their dynamic. It doesn't mean there's anything more between it, but for some people who don't actually seem to, I mean, I guess people who think this way don't actually understand how humans interact with each other. They just think like, oh, if you're nice to each other, that must mean you have romantic feelings towards them. No, you can have these relationships without it being romantic. But the thing is, I mean, I'm glad that they put a hard no on this, because Eiichiro Oda did allow them to make some changes to it, and I think some of the changes were almost necessary given the format of what they were trying to do with this. But at the same time, there are certain things that they would just ruin the whole dynamic of the crew, and having a romantic relationship was one of them. But this weirdo who kept asking about this or whatever, he kept kind of pressing on this. So it says Swift then turned his speculation attention towards the unexpected friendship that sparked between Kobe and Helmepa upon their enlistment to the Marines, and relayed the sentiment. Let's be honest, if One Piece were any other Netflix original series, Kobe and Helmepa probably would be a thing by now. Maybe he's right. Maybe if it was a Netflix, any other Netflix series, they would probably do that, because there's a lot of weirdos working in the entertainment industry right now. In turn, Medea shut down this line of thinking and assured Swift that their friendship was nothing more than a true romance or a true bromance. Excuse me, that's completely opposite. And that despite their stories receiving a slight expansion from the original manga, they would not suddenly be revealed to have romantic feelings for each other. And yeah, while it does, this is a slight expansion from it. I mean, this isn't like their story isn't something that Oda hasn't created himself. I mean, he has established stories for them, and they were kind of developing behind the scenes. So yeah, it does kind of show it a little bit more in this show. But I mean, this isn't something entirely original. So they still have guidelines that they're going by, and Oda wanted to make sure it's like they're following those guidelines. But like I said, it seems like people don't understand relationships and how things work. I mean, one thing that's actually important to point out when it comes to people like Kobe, Helmepa, or just the Straw Hat crew is in the actual original manga or even in the anime, one word that they use to describe each other is nakama, which is a word that really doesn't quite translate to English. I mean, because it's almost like a best friend, but like also family or something like that. It's more closer than just a best friend. I mean, there's really not an English word for it. I mean, I personally think the best way you can describe it is more or less be like a sibling, but it's not, obviously they're not your sibling. I mean, if you had a friend who was like so close to you that you grew up with and you referred to him as like your brother or your sister, then maybe that's the best way to do it. But I mean, that's really the dynamic between the Straw Hats. And by doing these changes, it would really shut that down. And I'm, for one, glad that they're actually doing these changes, because it does show that they have not only have respect for the source material, but because of that, we're actually seeing the success of this show. I mean, look at the audience score for this, 96%. And I think a lot of this, I mean, if you were to anger the core fan base, you wouldn't see scores like this. I mean, you would see it much lower because the core fan base is who's being drawn to it first and foremost. And if they're not happy with it, they're going to be relaying that word, and then other people aren't going to want to see it. But because it's actually being successful, because they're respecting the source material, we're also getting things like this. So One Piece just broke Netflix record held by Stranger Things and Wednesday. So talking about came out on August 31st. So according to Flix Patrol, which aggregates data on both video on demand and streaming charts, the first season of One Piece has already rocketed to the top of Netflix charts in 84 countries. Wednesday and Stranger Things season 4 hit number 1 in just 83 countries. So, I mean, that's something to go by, because obviously people like this show. I mean, like I said, if you anger the fans of this, then you're not going to really get these type of numbers. Like, they're going to come out and say this show's crap, it's going to get bad scores, people aren't going to be turned off by it. But if you get a show like this and you get the hardcore fans of One Piece coming out and saying like it's actually pretty good, then more people are going to be receptive to seeing it. And if they like this, maybe they're going to come over to the anime. I think that would probably be a good thing to do, more people watching the anime of this. But it really does seem like this is the path to go on when it comes to adapting animes and stuff like that, because we've always had this trouble in the past of, like, we've seen a lot of bad ones, particularly from Netflix, but even go as far back as when they did the Dragon Ball Z ones. I mean, certain things just, they just don't understand it. But when you get a show like this that people actually understand, the showrunners of it understand, and they're trying to follow it, then you get this success. And I think other studios should take note of this when they're trying to adapt something. And maybe we're going to see more of this happening in the future, because if you adapt something accurately and faithfully and with love from the source material, you're going to find people actually like it. But if you just try to use it as a springboard to tell your own stories or just to push your own agenda, well, then people are going to reject it. So maybe studios, if they want to make money, this should be the measure or the method to follow in the future. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. And if you like this video, make sure you click the like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with the latest news. Thank you.